and welcome to Week in Review. It's another week for us to talk about some of the biggest stories that occurred during the week. My name is Martia Umar. I'd like to say thank you for joining us. So it's a rainy season, and ever since the rainy season began, floods have ravaged many states across the country. But it seems the trend will continue, and that's the case where hundreds of residents in Nguru local government area of YOBE state were forced out of their residence following a flash flood that took over the entire Zangon-Kamwa area of the town, destroying many businesses. And Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that residents said they no longer feel safe due to increasing threats of building collapse as they resort to using local boats to access their homes.
Now this area is called Zangon-Kamwa in Nguru local government area of YOBE state. Now following a heavy rainfall 3 days ago, residents here say that this water overpowered the streets. In other words, there is no way either vehicle or human being can pass across these streets. And there are major streets, side by side, that are covered by water. There is no way people could pass or reach their houses. In other words, their houses are also at risk, overtaken by the water. Now, people are using locally made boats to pass from that axis of the road to the other side of the road. Now, as it is now, residents are telling us that they have been complaining to authorities to come and provide some drainages so that this water will be able to pass. Yet, they are still waiting for that to come. But at the moment, I can tell you that people around this area, they cannot access their houses. They had to follow through other alternative routes that can help them access their residence. And the whole area is covered and overpowered by water. The businesses that are around these areas are all halted. Nothing is actually going on around this area. And people are telling me that it's a business hub within the local government. And that is why it is very, very important for authorities to come to their aid to provide drainage so that this water will be able to pass and clear the way so that the businesses around here, you can see that all this place, they are small businesses, but they are covered. They can't do their business. In fact, someone is telling me there is a school down there and the school is closed because the student could not access the school due to the water that overpowered the place and covered the entire area. So now residents are calling on local government authorities and perhaps the state government to come and provide solution to this problem, because there are other houses that could collapse at any point in time, according to the residents around this area.
And the recent flood in Jigawa state that killed 50 people has left in its wake devastation among survivors who were taking refuge elsewhere. Salim Umar Ibrahim, who visits Balangu village in Kafin Hausa local government area of Jigawa state, reports on the situation. Take a look.
The disaster, which affected many parts of the state, was felt more by the people of Kafin Hausa local government area, especially those in Balangu town and neighboring villages. Balangu town itself has so far recorded no fewer than 20 deaths, with more than 300 households displaced.
It is actually disheartening that this unfortunate incident is happening at this time. This is not the first time this is happening, which is very, very sad. And over 300 houses have been submerged by flood, making it difficult for people to stay in their houses. The rivers are situated in the middle of the town, and anytime it rains, it always results to flood.
Residents who were abruptly sent out of their homes are now taking refuge in government-owned school buildings.
Our houses have been submerged by flood, and we are calling on the government and well-to-do individuals to come to our aid and rescue the situation.
The displaced persons are now sleeping on mats with no provision of mattresses yet by the state government. Many of them also said they depend on donation of food from residents to survive.
We have never witnessed this kind of flood in our lives. everywhere is water that has forced us to leave our houses with our wives and children.
However, the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, has said the agency is working round the clock to identify and access affected areas in an effort to provide relief materials.
And meanwhile, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency is warning that between August and October, some states in Nigeria will experience extreme and alarming intensity of rainfall, which will damage infrastructure, impact negatively on agriculture, and threaten health conditions of the people. And Director General of the NIMET, Professor Mansur Bako, predicted in Abuja that the high-intensity weather will affect part of Jigawa, Kaduna, Sokoto, Kebbi, Kano, and northern fringes of Adamawa, Gombe, and Borno, among other states. Nana Muhammad was there, and she filed in this report.
We've witnessed in the last few days a very active weather system that entails on intermittent and heavy downpour.
Overweightiness will lead to flooding. That is the message here. It means the intensity of the heavy downpours will increase. The implications, the risks of flooding will be heightened, while Nigerians will be exposed to waterborne illnesses and experience more outbreaks of diseases.
We cannot control climate change, but we can adapt and then also mitigate its effects. And what we are providing in NIMET and other MDS also is for us to be able to mitigate by providing early warning and then also adopt using certain strategies.
Professor Mansur pointed out that human factors such as dumping of refuse in drainages, building on waterways have contributed largely to the damages caused by intense weather conditions.
People tend to build houses on floodplains, and we know flood, it has what we call return period of either 3 to 4 years, or 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and 1 century, 100 years. So, and wherever you see a river channel, so it also has a history of this return period. And also coupled with the high deforestation activities, felling down of trees, so we have most of the river channels being silted up, and this affects their own size. And whenever there is inflow of water runoff, so they tend to overflow easily because the original depth has been affected.
Slow response by national emergency agencies and state response units may aggravate the nature of damage. This is why the DG is advising both state and national emergency agencies to wrap up their adaptation, mitigation, and response mechanisms.
Response by citizens, and we also encourage that state government should please liaise and align their activities with our advisories, and then also the relevant enablers, MDAs, such as NEMA, NISA, and then NOAA, which also relays such informations.
States that are expected to experience varying degrees of flood are further advised to begin awareness campaigns for possible response activities, especially in the high-risk areas of Kebbi, Zamfara, Southern Borno, Yobe, Taraba, and Adamawa states. Nan Muhammad, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And now talking about education, it's not news that ASU has been on strike for a while now, and the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, says the implementation of the federal government no work, no pay policy is the only condition delaying the truce between the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. And the minister spoke during the week to newsmen at State House, Abuja. However, insisted that government will not pay striking workers for the 5 months they were on strike to deter such occurrences in the future. Kendia Modu reports.
It is not surprising that when the Minister of Education chooses to brief newsmen on developments in the sector, the ongoing industrial action by unions in universities will dominate discourse. The minister says 4 out of 5 unions have agreed to call off their strikes, but the same cannot be said about ASU. This is because government will not agree to the condition the lecturers are given to call off their strike.
And let me just tell you what they are asking is, they can accept this if the federal government will agree to pay the salary for the month they have not worked. And I told them the federal government will not. I think the stand that the government has taken now, not to pay the month for which no work was done, I think this is the only thing that is in the hands of government to ensure that there is penalty for some behavior like this.
One of the points of departure between the two sides is the platform on which lecturers are to be paid.
The government has not approved UTAS. What I know the last on this issue is a committee has worked and tested all the three platforms, IPPIS, UTAS, U3PS. And the preliminary result shows that these two new ones are better than IPs in so many respects. But the decision of government will depend on what ultimately is given in the report that is being readied now.
Away from strikes, other issues in education that are posing to be a problem are the number of children out of school. The minister says that his initial drive when he resumed office was to declare a state of emergency in education. But he says that any reforms in education must be anchored on states.
As Minister of Education, I'm able to do here will amount to nothing if the foundation of the education system is already rotten. The way our primary schools are, and I would like to say this about governors, especially in the northern states, it is as if they are looking for power to destroy education at the primary school level. Except for few, I don't think there is any governor who has any good story to say about primary education.
The minister is not shying away from being brutally frank on some issues. For instance, when asked who would compensate students for time wasted for the 6-month strike, he said it was the responsibility of ASU to do that and not the federal government. In fact, he's asking the affected students to take ASU to court. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
And in another development, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, has revoked licenses of AIT, Silverbird TV, Ray Power FM, and Redeem FM, amongst others. The licenses of the broadcast media organizations, it was learned, were revoked over failure to meet up with the renewal requirements, which amounts to the tune of 2.66 billion naira. So the Director General of the NBC, Malam Balarabe Shehu, has directed its state offices to liaise with the security agencies to ensure the shutdown of the operation of the stations. The report. According to the Director General, the Commission has exhausted every means of dialogue with the defaulting stations as their outstanding debts to renew their licenses contravenes the NBC's Act and laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In view of this development, the continued operation of the data station is illegal and constitutes a threat to national security. Therefore, after due consideration, the National Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, hereby announces the revocation of the license of the underlisted debtors and are hereby given 24 hours to shut down their stations or operations.
Ileila said the Commission's officers nationwide is directed to work with security agents to ensure that defaulting stations are shut down within 24 hours.
Our offices nationwide are hereby directed also to collaborate with security agencies across the country to ensure immediate compliance. If you want your license to be taken back to you, simply come and register with NBC again. Follow the process and get your license back. That's all.
The Commission also called on Internet Protocol Television to register appropriately, while stressing that this action of the Commission has no political undertone. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Union of Journalists has described the decision by the National Broadcasting Commission to revoke the licenses of 52 broadcast stations nationwide over indebtedness to the Commission as ill-advised and hasty. A statement by the national president of the union, Chris Isiguzo, insists that the action is ill-timed and reckless, despite NBC's claim that the clampdown had no political undertone. He noted that the revocation of the licenses at this critical time of insecurity in the country appears to be a decision taken without careful prior deliberation, consultation, or counsel. Isiguzo, while regretting the inability of the affected broadcast stations to fulfill their obligations to the NBC, and viewing of dwindling resources, called on the NBC to exercise more restraint in consideration of national security and allow more dialogue and consultation to find a better way to dealing with the situation. In the same vein, Dark Communications plc, the parent company of Africa Independent Television (AIT) and Ray Power Networks, has said that it is in talks with the NBC to resolve its license issue. And Dark Communications, in a statement on Friday signed by AIT editor Teve Chiav, assured members of the public that the company has engaged with the NBC to resolve the issue. And you're watching Week in Review on Trust Television. More stories after this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Week in Review on Trust Television. And moving on to other updates, 4 additional victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack were on Friday released by the abductors. Kaduna-based publisher and negotiator Tukur Mamu confirmed this in a statement issued in Kaduna. Among those released is the oldest victim, a grandmother of 90 years, Halimatu Atta, and her 53-year-old daughter, Adama Atta. Muhammad Sani, Abdulmaji, and a Sokoto indigent, Modi Palonga, were also released on Friday. Mamu in the statement called on the federal government and Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, to secure the release of a 21-year-old Azorifa Lois, as the abductors are planning to marry her as they did to Leah Sharibu. And now we move to Lagos, where the shopping mall at Legali Ayoride Junction, Victoria Island, Lagos, during the week was gutted by fire. And the inferno started in the early hours of Wednesday in one of the shops where combustible items such as tires and car batteries were stored. And the Southwest Coordinator National Emergency Management Agency, Ryan Fariloye, confirmed the incident. He said that the fire has been brought under control after officials of the state and federal fire services battled to put it out. The cause of the inferno is yet to be ascertained, and Fariloye said that an investigation was ongoing and the report will be made available upon completion. The cost of carrying out the forensic audit of contracts awarded in the Niger Delta region continues to rise as the Federal Executive Council approved an additional 765.97 million naira for the project during the week. A minister of the Niger Delta revealed this to newsmen at State House Abuja after the weekly meeting of the cabinet. The amount, he said, will cover the additional works done by forensic auditors. Kendi Amodu filed in this report.
For the forensic audit, a lead consultant was appointed to work with 16 other field auditors at a total contract sum of 1.786 billion naira. The project has since been concluded, but in the course of carrying out the work, the auditors had to deal with many more projects than were initially envisaged.
The exercise also took an additional 7 months. The total number of additional projects considered by the auditors was 3,773. So for reasons of the additional number of projects and the additional time taken, Council today approved a revised additional sum of 765,974,975 naira 50 kobo.
Meanwhile, another project which has accrued additional cost is the compensation and resettlement of communities affected by the construction of the 700 megawatt Zungeru hydroelectric power project.
The total sum of 2,740,000,000 naira, which will revise the subsisting amount from 19,640,000,000 naira to 22,380,000,000 naira.
Nigerians are concerned about the dip in power supply in recent times, despite promises made by the power minister that the country would be able to generate and maintain 5,000 megawatts of power from the 1st of July.
We've gone very far with that, and I believe it's for that reason that we're able to reach up to 4,600 as of yesterday. In the morning, this morning, it dropped to 4,100. So this is what is happening. You will be experiencing this fluctuation due to all these issues around gas to power, because gas is not something that we control directly. You have to pay them. You have to pay gas. They will not give you gas until you pay. So we are looking at ways to solve that issue. It is the reason why we are unable to reach that 5,000 we promised you by July 1st of this year.
Minister of Information Lai Mohammed is also addressing the issue of the growing inflation rate in the country. The minister gave assurances that government was trying to find its domestic means of stemming inflation. A solution to the global phenomenon varied from government to government. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
And now to legal matters. Emina Chief Magistrate Court, Niger State has transferred the rape case against a 48-year-old assistant head teacher of Central Primary School, Karambode, New Busa, Borgu local government area of Niger State, Usman Galadima, to the New Busa Magistrate Court for fresh trial. A court and Galadima is standing trial for allegedly raping 13 pupils of a school in August 2021.
As you know, we already have a law in place. The VAP law, that is Violence Against People Prohibition Law, is in place, which has been signed by His Excellency and even gazetted. So at least the law is going to take its course. Since the case has been taken up by the government, is now a government case. Even if the victims are not ready to go further, we are ready to go further. And as the committee is, the chair of the committee is Her Excellency. She's not going to leave any stone unturned to see that justice is served.
Stand by studio. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue.
From Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
In the headlines.
Watching the news on TV, one may never get a sense of what is actually going on behind the scenes, or even the number of people that come together to produce a bulletin. Newsroom is a frenetic, energetic, and sometimes chaotic place where time is of greatest value. These are the people behind the scene. What you see on screen is just a small part of what is going on. There are more professionals behind the scene who work to bring the best of TV.
Television is about telling the vision. And how can you tell the vision is by these two basic things, visuals and audio. These are the two things that comes together to inform what we see or what our viewers see.
A 24-hour news channel
there is focus on people's-oriented reports. We commission reports maybe a day earlier, and then our team of reporters from across the country actually send in reports daily.
Celebrating 1-year anniversary, Trust TV is out to document the Nigerian story.
The first year has been quite fruitful, but also very, very challenging, in the sense that television broadcasting is about content. And as a news and current affairs channel, we try as much as possible to give you in-depth journalism, coming from our background that we are a company that used to be a newspaper, but we spun a TV out of a newspaper. And we know how newspapers are in-depth into what they do. And we didn't just pick documentary as our niche like that. It just came in the fact that people need to know more. People need to dwell on issues, not just have them in a few seconds and move on. So also in our news coverage, like our tagline has said, documenting the Nigerian story, we tried as much as possible to tell human angle stories and leave the public's medium to talk about official stories. We will cover the official stories, but our focus of human angle stories, stories that affect the day-to-day lives of people. And that has to do, you can't do it sitting from the office. You have to put people on the ground. You have to send people to go to villages, to go to cities, to go to hamlets, to go to the bushes. I think for the last 1 year, we've tried as much as possible to go to very difficult places to tell stories of the ordinary people.
Trust TV just turned 1 year and has no plans of being off anytime soon.
And that brings us to the end of Week in Review for this week. Remember, you can join us same station, same time. But for more updates, you can follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Martia Umar. Thank you for joining.